going on YouTube? What's going on Facebook? I'm going to give everybody a minute to jump back on the channel here, or to jump on the channel, I should say. Welcome back to another How's Your Saturday. We're going to be going over some of the stuff that's kind of going around the league and kind of some of the stuff that we're seeing out of University of Georgia. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to jump on. So if you guys are watching this not live, we always do a pause here at the beginning. Since we've got you guys here, don't forget to follow us on Twitter. It's Big Dog Brett UGA at. So I'm new to the whole Twitter thing, so you guys will just have to help me out with that thing. What's going on, David? So one of the things that I'm kind of trying to do is expand, the way that I'm putting out content. What's going on, Carson? Good morning. What's going on? Nothing but rain here in Cartersville. Hey, Just Rocks. I live in south of Atlanta by a very small margin. It's been raining all night, raining all day. I'm actually kind of liking it because it reminds me of football season, so kind of okay with it. So I got a new little setup here. I got this thing that does a little bit of lighting and holds the camera, so it's definitely a lot nicer than holding the camera and trying to do all this stuff and look at notes, and I'm always constantly fidgeting with my hat. So I like to have both hands free. What's up, Carson? What can I answer for you today, sir? I like interacting with you guys, and always feel free to jump in and throw a question in the comment section or chat section or whatever. I don't have a hair person yet, so I have to make sure I look good for you guys. Hey man, you know what? We needed the rain. We definitely needed the rain. I was so tired of it being all all nasty and hot and yeah. So I like a little bit of rain. I'm gonna take the wife here in a little while to go see goodness. I'm gonna take the wife here in a little bit to go to the Huddle House, not Waffle House. Going to the Huddle House. It's a little different. What's going on, kid? Man, I'm just, it's raining, making everything nice and green again. I'm good with it. Who do I think will be the starter? Who do I think will be the starter for Auburn? This is hard and a tough question for me. What's going on, Dwayne? Thanks for jumping back on. Carson, you're kind of experiencing what? Yeah, I knew you were talking about quarterback. You're kind of experiencing what UGA has experienced over the past several years, with the exception of maybe last year, maybe. Most of us kind of knew that Jake Fromm was going to start, but it was kind of hard to tell at the beginning whether they were going to. There were a lot of fans that were pushing for Justin Fields, a lot of fans that knew it was going to be Jake Fromm. You go back before that, it was between Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason. Before that, it was Lambert and Eason. I mean, it's always been a quarterback question. Fortunately for Auburn, they had some stability at that position, which was really good for them. But they haven't had to deal with the whole quarterback controversy. This is like the first year in forever we really haven't had that problem, and I'm happy. I'm happy about it. I'm good with it. But if you're looking at the quarterbacks that you guys are looking at, I think personally, if you look at Bo Nix, that guy is probably one of the best freshman quarterbacks I've seen go to Auburn since Cam Newton. He has a command of the field. He has great vision downfield, and he can hit any kind of pass that you want to throw out there. So I think Bo Nix, with his ability to move like he does, I think he's going to be your guy. Yeah, my yard was getting there. I went out and watered it a couple of times, but I'm not the yard guy. All right, I guess we're about 5 minutes in here and kind of start jumping into some of this stuff. I do have a Twitter account for you guys that are on. I think it's Big Dog Brett UGA. I think is what I've got it set up as. And I'm starting to link the comment from YouTube over to that, and I'm also starting to do it on Facebook as well. I'm not super computer. No, I'm fairly computer savvy, but I'm not super social media savvy. So I'm still kind of learning this stuff. Trying to figure out how to. I was gonna try and figure out how to live stream between YouTube and Facebook at the same time, but apparently the easiest way to do that is to do it from a laptop. I like doing it from a phone. I've just always liked live streaming from a phone better. It just seems more to my taste. So for now, we're just doing YouTube, and I'm going to start throwing the links on Facebook and Twitter. So if you guys are on there, follow me, like me, subscribe me, whatever it is we do with Twitter. Apparently, if the politicians can figure out how to use it, I think I have enough IQ to figure it out. So we've kind of been seeing a couple of guys kind of floating around as far as 5-star running backs. I don't think anybody disagrees that UGA is running back U. I think we put more high quality, high caliber running backs in the NFL than anybody else. I don't think we've had a high quality main running back not go to the NFL in the past, 6-7 years. Almost every single guy we have is a 1,000-yard rusher, even when we're running them in tandem. So to me, that shows that the university does a great job of developing its running backs. Now this year is probably going to be the best offensive line that UGA has had in a long time. Yeah, over 10. You're right, Keith. This is probably going to be the best offensive line that UGA has seen in a long time. That's definitely going to help the numbers. DeAndre Swift is a seasoned, experienced running back, and he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate for sure. The guy's already super elite with just what he has sitting around him now. Those guys are going to have another year of experience under their belt. They're going to be bigger, faster, stronger. You're going to see some giant gaping holes when we play some of the lesser teams we play. Yeah, maybe that line will, maybe the offensive line will give Jake Fromm time to get rid of the ball. God, I hope so. I hope that's one of the things they developed in the offseason was him doing that classic 3-step drop or 5-step drop and pass. DBU, definitely. I don't think we're maybe as prolific as some of the other schools out there, but I think we're definitely in the conversation. I don't think there's a big gap between whoever the leader is for the DBU title and the next runner-up like there is for UGA saying it's running back U and the next runner-up. I think there's a pretty good sized gap there. Now, that having been said, yeah, I was just finna jump into Stokes, man. Keith had texted me the other yesterday or day before yesterday. Hey, what's going on, Artie? Florida has some contention for that as well. Swift is like Chubb's strength and Sony speeds, but can still get better. Absolutely. Yeah, Florida's definitely in a conversation for DBU. They have some great defensive backs. But let me put you guys on notice about Eric Stokes. Thanks, Artie. Yeah. As far as the top defensive player this year, if Eric Stokes continues to play the way he's playing now, you're probably going to see him be compared to some of the greatest backs of all time. This guy's all over the field. He's crazy fast. He's good at cutting off routes. He's everywhere. Zimmer Bowman says, "Hi Brett, my name is Chuck. Between Zach Evans and Kendall Milton, who do you think we have the best chance with?" It's kind of hard to say, but I think Kendall Milton putting on that gear and taking those pictures as recently as he did is an indicator that he might be leaning more towards Georgia. And I tend to like whenever you see the water get warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer for a commit than just having a commit who's always been just on the warm side, you know. So if you had a guy who's been on a warm side for 6 or 7 months and he's just kind of stayed that plane, that's good. But if you see a guy who started out cold and then he ramped up to hot, and you know, that means he's seen something at Georgia that makes him want to change his mind. There's a lot of people saying Ohio State. But Ohio State doesn't have that running back stable. They don't have a way to really show that guy that they can grow a running back into NFL caliber. Georgia does. So if his ambition is to go win a national title, he might want to go be win a national title and be the stud and be the rock star. Then he may go to Ohio State. But if his intention is to go pro, he's probably going to come to Georgia. I mean, Georgia's got a stable of running backs, and that's great, but Georgia has already shown that they can take multiple running backs, give them all play time, not wear them out, and have them still playing at the end of the season and be 1,000-yard rushers. That makes so much more of an impact to a young player whenever you have a conversation. You have to understand, some of these guys that come play for Georgia or come play for or go play for Ohio State or Alabama or whoever, they don't necessarily Ohio State championship win is due. They want it bad, but just can't get it. They got to get past Michigan, and they're really close. Those two are really close in competitive strength. If you're looking at, I lost my train of thought. Let me back up. I got to back up and read the comments. If you're looking for a lot of, excuse me, I got it. Okay, I got it. The players some players come play for a school just because, hey Sarah, just because they believe that player can get them into the NFL. They don't necessarily like the school. Nothing wrong with the school, but all things even, maybe their favorite school is Ohio State, but he's the quarterback, and he doesn't feel like he can get a job at Ohio State. But he knows that Oklahoma does a great job of getting quarterbacks into the NFL. He may go play for Oklahoma just because they have a better way of developing that player. Doesn't mean he's in love with Oklahoma, just means that that's the best opportunity for that guy. And that may be one of the factors that plays in for Kendon Milton. He's a 5-star guy. No matter where he goes, he's going to be great. But one of the things that these kids look at, yes, is being able to get into the NFL. Can they get developed? Absolutely. Yeah, Ohio State's going to take a drop off. That's why there's so close of a gap between the two. When they add a new coach in, they got to learn a whole new play scheme. You're absolutely right. Morning, Sarah. The depth at LSU and Alabama makes me think we have a better shot at getting them. I agree. And also the fact that Alabama just accepted a 3-star commit for an offensive lineman. That kind of shook me up a little bit. How does Oklahoma do without Kyler Murray? They're going to do just fine. I can talk about Tua. I can talk about Tua 1.0 as much as you like, but when you're talking about trying to get a running back like Kendall Milton or Zachary Evans, those guys have a lot of things to play into the fact. Ohio State is still loaded with talent, I agree, but I think that anytime that you add a new coach, even if the coach is really good, I think that an 8-5 season is probably likely. Offensive lineman is Evans' teammate. That's why they took him. Probably. Chris Steele, I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's another player that just transferred away from Florida. Poor Florida keeps losing players. And one of the things that I'm not a Dan Mullen fan. Took the record right out of my mouth. Jalen Hurts will work hard for OU. He's looking for redemption. I don't know that Jalen Hurts is looking for redemption. I think what Jalen Hurts is trying to do is find a way into the NFL. And with a track record like VTW says Florida's a joke, who cares about them? People that live in Florida. But if you look at Jalen Hurts' track record, he actually has a really good track record. Does his play style fit the NFL? Ohio State has maybe 2 tough games on their schedule. I haven't really looked into it, but I know they got to play Michigan. And if you look at the betting odds, they're really close. Could youth at Georgia be a factor in having a bad season, like falling short of the SEC? No, I don't think so, kid. And I'll get into that in a second. Let me write that down because I'll forget. So one of the things that I look at, he went to Oregon. That's right, and now he's transferred to USC. I think he went out to Oregon, and he was just kind of looking for a place to jump ship. Michigan can't get over the hump either. But I think this year, without Urban Meyer at Ohio State, I think Michigan's got a much better shot at beating Ohio State than they've had in recent memory. I think whenever Chris Steele went to Oregon, he was just looking for a place to jump ship. He got out there and went, whoa, this really doesn't fit who I am. And then USC said, hey, do you want to come back down south? And he went, yes, please. And so he came back to USC. Jalen Hurts doesn't throw interceptions like Tua does. You're right, he doesn't. But I bet this year you don't see as many interceptions from Tua as you did last year. I think that if you look at Oklahoma, I think they do a much better job of developing quarterbacks in the NFL play style than Alabama does. Not a slight against Alabama. Alabama's still doing what they need to do. But I think that that's probably the best place he could have went to get developed into being a high caliber quarterback that the NFL will take seriously. Does youth at UGA cause them to fall apart? No. I keep putting this out there, and I'm going to keep putting this out there. There's 25. I don't know if Jalen averages as many attempts as Tua. Probably not. Hey, Brett, just started following you. What do you think Jalen could do? Do I think Jalen could be a running back in the pros? I don't know. That's really something I haven't looked at. I think that Jalen Hurts has he's definitely high football IQ. They may want to transition that guy into some kind of tight end or something in the NFL. I mean, and make it where he can pass. I don't know. Confident the Dogs are going undefeated this year. I want to say yes, but recent memory doesn't serve to be accurate. Do they have the opportunity? Yes. Do they have the talent? Yes. Do they have the capability? Yes. Do they have the schedule? Yes. There's a lot of factors there that are helpful, but we've got to do things like go play in the West and not fall on our face. 15-0 guaranteed. Sounds like the Volunteer Roadshow. We're going 15-0. I guarantee it. I'm a little more careful than that. The youth at UGA has a ton of studs all over the field, and every single team loses players every year, and then they reload and it's next man up. The reason UGA did okay for so long, they were good for so long. Good job, Brett. Thanks, Artie. UGA is going to have a great season. There's no doubt about that. One of the reasons that UGA did so well for so long was that UGA had pretty good talent and pretty good coach. Sounds like Lance. Lance who? Are you talking about Couch Coach? I don't know. One of the reasons UGA did so well for so long was because UGA had Mark Richt. Mark Richt had a pretty good game plan against lesser teams that didn't have to adjust, couldn't adjust, weren't very deep. Hey, Mary. Lance from Feinbaum. I haven't seen that, but I don't really pay attention to Feinbaum. Maybe I should start watching that guy a little more often, but he seems to be an overpaid Alabama hugger. Everything he says is skewed in the direction of Alabama, which if you're an announcer is a safe place to be, because more often than not, even if you don't know what you're talking about, you're probably right. I mean, but when you have teams, don't underestimate Kirby Smart. Florida is taking a crap. Let me get back to youth at UGA. Mouth of the South is damn accurate for him last year. Mark Richt did a pretty good job against the lesser teams, but whenever he got against teams that were deeper at the 5-star, had more 5 stars or had 5 stars, Mark Richt really struggled. Matter of fact, he didn't struggle, he failed. So I think Kirby Smart is coming into his prime. I think that he is going to make it much harder for Alabama to steamroll Brenton Cox and Stokes. Absolutely. Keep an eye on those guys. They're going to be beasts. I'm looking for they absolutely will be national names. They'll win all kind of awards. They'll be All-American all over. Jonathan Kane says, click the like button, folks. I appreciate when you guys do that. That definitely helps. One of the things that I'm looking for this year is, I sound more like a UGA fan and I roll with the tide, but I respect UGA. Well, that's the way to be, is that you've got to be able to objectively look at another team and go, okay, there's some talent here. There's an opportunity to beat this guy, or this is going to be a really hard game. I think Georgia at the at the wide receiver position, which is a high skill set for us, I think a lot of people are overlooking that, and which I'm fine with it. Please overlook it. Don't pay attention to it. Forget all about it. You've got George Pickens, who is the right size and height of what we've been needing for a wide receiver. You've got D-Rob, who has proven at other schools that he can play. Maybe this year he gets to play finally. Holloman's going to be in the mix, who was a great receiver last year. So there's a lot of quality talent out there to throw the ball around to. The small adjustments that UGA really needs to make is UGA needs to make the adjustment of Jake Fromm has got to get rid of the ball a little bit faster. We've got to have taller and faster receivers, which we do, to go up and get these 50-50 balls. I think that's a transition from what we used to have, a lot of these 6-foot guys, to get into the 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guys. When you have those guys that can go up and get those balls, like Bush, I mean, it makes a huge difference. I had somebody who was making an argument that it's perfectly okay for a wide receiver to be 6 foot. Not in my opinion. Pickens is our Julio, absolutely. I think that if you're going to play in that position, yeah, it's okay to be a 150-pound running back if you play for the Citadel. But if you're going to play Power 5 football, and you're probably going to play in a championship game, and probably going to play in a playoff game, you need every advantage you can get. And if you are recruiting wide receivers, you need those guys that have the 3, 4, and 5 inch difference in reach. Think about this. That is roughly the thickness of a football. So if I can go up one more football than you can, I can catch more balls than you can. It's one of the reasons that LSU is so successful with their pass game. It's one of the reasons that Missouri is so successful with theirs. Carson Beck will be featured on QB1 on Netflix. I'm going to have to watch that. It's one of the reasons that Clemson is so successful, is because they can reach up and get that ball that's 3, 4, 5 inches higher than the next guy. That's only the width of a hand. But if you look, I mean, if the width of a hand matters in football, you got those guys downfield. You got those guys out there who's competing for those 50-50 balls. That 4, 5, or 6 inch reach, that one more step makes all the world of difference. Jake Fromm is deadly accurate, but you got to have a little bit of space for him to throw him to. What's the old theory? Two objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. Then you got to create space. Hey, I definitely think he'll pick up a 5-star rating. That guy looked like a phenom when we watched him play. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys. Thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate that. We need a Rose Bowl. Tyler Clark, more consistent, and Malik Herring will break out this year. Certainly possibilities. They continue to develop the talent at UGA. For those who think that there's anybody in the East that's catching Georgia as far as talent-wise, as far as ability-wise, this is not to rub salt in anybody's wounds. This is just numbers. There's 24 5-star recruits in the SEC East, and 22 of them are on Georgia's roster. Think about that a minute. 22. That's enough for each position on both sides of the ball. That's pretty tough. And that's not counting the gaggle of 4-stars, and some are borderline 5-stars at that are sitting there on the bench waiting to come in and out. To me, excuse me. To me, it just makes sense that if you're gonna say that you're catching Georgia, you got to be catching them somewhere. You can't just say, "Oh, well, this guy had a good year last year. He's gonna have a good year this year." No, it doesn't work like that. And Florida thinks they will win the. Stokes was a 3-star. Florida is not going to catch Georgia. Tennessee's not going to catch Georgia. USC's not going to catch Georgia. And I really think that's the only teams in the East that have any talking to conversation right now, or should. Call Kirby and told him to stop collecting timeouts. We got that problem straight. Yeah. To me, and I'm just a coach. the Florida game's going to end up on that show Swamp People. And I'll let y'all put that together. To catch a team, you can't just do what they're doing. Because if I'm doing 100 miles an hour and you do 100 miles an hour, you're always going to be back here. You got to do more. You got to catch up. So to catch me, you got to do 110, or I got to slow down. And Georgia's certainly not doing that. At least it doesn't appear so in my opinion. South Carolina is making some ground. Georgia's 2 years away in talent, and everyone else in the East, however, in Florida will beat. Already, you keep saying that, man. I got to make that Florida video for you. I made the Auburn one. I got to make the Florida one. I'll do that this week. The South Carolina does have some talent. There's no doubt about it. But I also think that the Florida talent has a major problem, and that major problem starts and ends with it starts with Will Muschamp. I don't think Will Muschamp is ever going to be as good a coach as Kirby Smart. It's kind of like Mark Richt playing Steve Spurrier. There were plenty of years where Mark Richt was better than Steve Spurrier, but couldn't beat him. And that's because Steve Spurrier was just a better coach. There's been years where Georgia, it's been a while, but there's been years where Georgia was better than Alabama talent-wise on paper, but then Mark Richt would play Saban and get his teeth kicked in. So I think that coaching factor is huge, and I just don't think that hell no, not Muskrat. I just don't think that Muschamp has the ability to consistently beat. 2012 was an exact season that I'm talking about. I think 04 was another one. I just don't think Will Muschamp has the ability to really be there consistently. I think Kirby Smart's got his number and is going to continue to have his number. But as far as the strongest teams in the East besides Georgia, I think that I probably would have to say it's Florida. I don't think that, yeah. What's he saying? Well, I mean, we don't know. That's why we play the games. And I mean, it's certainly capable of falling on our face. We've done that before. We're better than Bama the last 2 years. We just weren't prepared for the backups. We played Alabama 120 minutes, and 111 a minute. 111 of those minutes, we were leading the game, and nobody else has ever done that. So, I mean, even Clemson hasn't done that. So, it's really about making the adjustments and making that part. That's part of not being better. What do you mean, Keith? I think I know what you mean, but I'm not sure. Looking forward, I think that Kirby Smart's learning as he goes seems to be better. And one of those things that let me back up and talk about Mullen for a second. What's going on, Jay? Good to see you on, man. Yeah, not being ready for backups. That's absolutely right. You have to be prepared for those sitting on the bench. What's up, Prince? James, Dan Mullen said, come out in a tweet or whatever, I think last week, said, hey, I'm not trolling. Listen, dude, just because your recruits are running away, going into the argument of not being better. Yeah, you're right. Looking at what Dan Mullen's doing now, which he's trying to play damage control, he's trying to say, oh, no, I wasn't trolling Georgia. Buddy, come on, buddy. Stop lying to everybody. Stop lying to yourself. Yeah, I don't know if you're trying to make these fans feel better, make these recruits feel better, or what you're doing, but there is nobody with a lick of any kind of sense that can look at you and go, you weren't trolling Georgia? Okay, I believe you. It's not going to happen. It takes two to beat the general. Mullen was just trolling himself and his own fan base. Absolutely. Players continue to leave that program, and I honestly believe it's not because, well, it kind of started out a couple of players left, and then they had some legal ramifications, and then a couple of more players left, and it was one of those things where once the scale kind of started to tip, it really kind of got out of hand. And now, you know, he's trying to, yeah, he was trolling, and now he's trying to play damage control. I would have more respect if he just come out and said, Hell yes, I'm trolling Georgia, and I'm going to continue to troll them. It's our biggest rival, and I want to kick their teeth in. I would have had more respect for that. I'd have said, you know what? Man's got a point. But the old saying goes, if you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. Sorry. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not buying the Dan Mullet package. And there ain't a Georgia fan. Excuse me. There ain't a. Yeah, Coach Saban was laid back in his recent interviews. I think he's enjoying the spotlight now. Yeah, of course he is, because they're not. The media is keeping the rat poison focused on other teams. So, I don't think that there is a Florida fan right now that isn't wishing they would have kept McElwain. I just don't. One of the things I do want to talk about real quick. Oh, there's two things. So the Tennessee Roadshow, not Tennessee Roadshow. There was a Tennessee radio show that's hyping up the fan base. Uncle Lou made a video on it. I thought it was hilarious. Go over and check out Uncle Lou's video, Rat Poison. After this season, Florida will lose about 4 or 5 games, and the same fans laughing with him will turn on him. That's exactly right. I live in Florida, and they really think they're going to beat Georgia this year. It's going to be a scary game. Artie, I think you're caving to peer pressure. Florida has no more talent than they did last year. Georgia has more talent than they did last year. Georgia has improved its defensive line, which was the weakest spot we had. The biggest problem Georgia had wasn't defense against the run game. It was defense against the pass. I mean, it wasn't vice versa. It was defense against the run game. The teams just run all over us, right up the middle. That was our biggest weakness. We couldn't stop it. And I think this year that Georgia is going to be another blowout. And that's not me being a Georgia fan. That's me looking at the numbers going, man, there's a lot of guys that beat the crap out of Florida last year that's going to beat the crap out of Florida this year. Florida really hadn't improved that much on talent, and they're losing a bunch of players. Dan Mullen hasn't beat Georgia yet that I know of, so I don't know where that's coming from. Why the Florida Gators get fired from the M&M factory? They're throwing away the W's. You're so close. You're so close. They were throwing away the E's, the 3's, and the W's. I knew we had a problem when Missouri rushed for over 150. Yeah, that was one of the biggest problems we had. We lost Roquan Smith. We didn't know how to stop the run anymore. We didn't have anybody step up and fill that gap. So now you got that has hopefully been patched. There's definitely been some more talent put in place, and they've strengthened the defensive line. The offensive line has improved immensely. So there's going to be a lot more running going on from DeAndre Swift. The fact that you put Eric Stokes in the backfield and that guy's all over, I look for Eric Stokes to be one of the biggest game changers that Georgia has in the defense. Tennessee Roadshow is another college fan. He does a live show. He has a couple of Tennessee former football legends that come on his show regularly. Guy has pretty good content. If you guys go check him out sometime, he's a really nice guy. But there's Tennessee radio shows right now. One of them is actually I think it's the Fox Sports radio show that's revving fans up, telling them that Tennessee's going to beat Georgia. They're quote unquote putting Georgia on upset alert. What in the world are they thinking? Man, your offensive coordinator we have the playbook. Want a friendly wager? I see 11-1. Like SG said, for both teams, Florida and Georgia. So you think Florida is going to win the SEC East? What would you like that wager to be, Artie? I'm interested. So anyway, yeah, Sarah, think about it. You turn the M sideways, it's a 3. You turn it the other way, it's an E. I just don't see the talent at Florida to overcome the talent at Georgia. I certainly don't see the coaching ability at Florida being able to overcome the coaching at Georgia. We're not talking about the past 2 games being close. One of them was nearly a shutout. And it was because we had like our third string in, and there was actually arguments on the sidelines after the third stringers allowed a touchdown on the Georgia sideline. They were furious because they wanted to shut them out. I can promise you that intensity still lives in that locker room right now. With all the attention that's going on, talking about, changing the games away from the world's largest outdoor cocktail party to be back and forth between the two stadiums, there's a ton of attention on these games. Georgia's certainly not going to overlook it. Already, VTW says, just try to make it competitive. For those of you who don't know, Artie's actually an Auburn fan. And that's the reason I made that video last week, was for Artie about his team. So thanks for jumping on, Sarah. Really appreciate it. One of the things that I look at, obviously coaching ability, past games, how much has the talent changed, what exactly is going on. And I just don't see I don't see a change in offensive coordinator. I don't see a change in defensive coordinator. Still got the same head coach. Recruiting hasn't improved. There's no advantage as far as home field advantage any more than what you already have. I just don't see any wow factor that's going to make it. You got to make a video on Florida's returning player. Mullen is a better in-game coach. Georgia has all the talent. Talent only takes you so far. Woo, look at Jay. Jay said 48-0. I like it. I don't know that I'm convinced with that number, but I like it. Let's jump out and talk about James Coley. James Coley is a new offensive coordinator, for those who don't know. Most of you, I'm sure, do know. But James Coley has every bit... oh, you're welcome, Marty. My pleasure. Felipe is going to be better, not great, but better. Of course. I mean, he's got to be a little bit better. But Jake Fromm was better last year than he was year before, but it wasn't a dramatic improvement. At least it wasn't to me. I mean, he was better, but I expected what I got out of him. I mean, I didn't expect him to go out there and kill a season as well as Trevor Lawrence did. And if I had, I would have been overplaying my hand, my talent, what I thought his talent set was. But anyway, back to James Coley. So James Coley, new offensive coordinator, played under secondary would be lights out, absolutely. James Coley has the exact same playbook, and if you don't think he has the playbook, then you come on now. That Tennessee has now, Jim Chaney's playbook, and he is expected to change and modify and make better the play calling, the play designs. We know what's going to work as far as the run game goes. We already know. We know what doesn't work. James Coley absolutely refused to write a second half plan. He would only write a first half plan and hope he carried it the whole way. Mark Richt's problem, and that's why he's not here anymore. James Coley is going to put better and more plays in there that's going to be designed to target the receivers when we need to target the receivers on third downs. I mean, it just is what it is. He'll get the tight end balls more, I think. I think so, too. He recruited you when he was at FSU. Great dude. Yeah, he's awesome. Florida fans will be in therapy after this season. Expectations too high. Georgia wins the East. I think you're right, Dwayne. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a good game. I don't even think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be another blowout game. Dan Mullen's probably going to end up getting fired. But, the problem you're going to run into is who are you going to put in his place? Nobody wants that job. Coley, when we get up on Bama, kept pouring it on, and don't leave it up to the defense to hold them off. Keep scoring. Absolutely. Being conservative is one of the biggest reasons we lost those games. Not being prepared for the second time Alabama beat us with a backup, with the same backup that we played the year before, that we beat the crap out of for most of the game. Was absolutely unacceptable. I mean, that was horrible. You get in there and play basically prevent defense and play super conservative offense. It was just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Hopefully we won't get through that again, but we'll see what happens. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. I'm running up about 40 minutes here. I want to take my wife to lunch, so we're going to do that. Do you guys have any questions for me before we jump off? Anything at all? That and I'm running out of coffee. Artie says, oh my God. What are you oh my God about, Artie? I got somebody I want to bring up, Big Ben Cleveland. You seen, Jonas told me he was a bully in the spring. He's a phenom. Big Ben's always been big. I mean, he's just a powerhouse on the line. I mean, we love having that guy. Oh, my back is Huddle House, man. Going to the Huddle House, man. Gonna grease it up today. How are you going to celebrate winning the Natty and going undefeated this year? Do I want to watch the Florida and Georgia game with you, Artie? We might be able to do that, man. I don't know where you live at, but you kind of know where my area is. I would assume you're close if you made the offer, but yeah, we can certainly figure something out. Artie, just as I'm sure you know, hey, what's going on, Mark? As I'm sure you know, I do fan reaction videos. If you're in that room with me, when that happens, I can't promise how bad I'm going to razz you. I kind of went off whenever Georgia beat Oklahoma, so it's certainly a possibility that I'll get a little verbal. My biggest concern for the Dogs, my biggest concern right now is being able to stop the run up the gut. I haven't seen anything yet, and I want to see the play calling more in line with being able to thanks, Mark, being able to I want to see more shots downfield. I want to see more 20-yard passes. I want to see Jake Fromm get rid of the ball quicker. Oh, I can handle it, Artie. If I can take losing to Alabama twice back-to-back years, I can handle Austin, Florida game. The biggest problem Georgia has to have is that in the moments in time when we need to lean on Jake Fromm to carry us in the game, he needs to be able to do it. Pickens and Blaylock will push the receivers this year. They will. Kirby? I think he meant Kirby. We've got to throw the ball when we need to throw it. Absolutely right. We've got to have somebody. I appreciate Artie. Artie's actually one of my favorite people that jump in the channel here. He's somebody who's gonna troll you a little bit. He's gonna throw some facts at you, and he's gonna make you think, and I like that. Kirby is going to stop the run. We'll see. I mean, you can only call so many plays. I think that the more tenure he gets, he's getting better at what he does, and I think one of the biggest things that makes me a Kirby fan is that Kirby was able to look at what was going on with the offense, understand it wasn't what he needed to do, understood that wasn't going to get us where we needed to get, and he was willing to make the change. Most teams would love to have a guy like Jim Chaney. Fine, have him. We don't want good anymore. We want great. Cox is going to be huge on stopping the run this year. Brenton Cox's job is to seal up that middle, but I got to see him do it. Who is Artie's team? Artie is an Auburn fan, actually. So we'll see what happens. May have to do a live stream, figure out how to do it where I've got my phone up or my live stream going and his live stream going to a feed all at the same time, but we'll figure that out when it gets closer. If we can hit the passes when we need to hit the passes, the receivers can step up and help us out, and we can stop the run. There is nobody that can stop Georgia from a national championship. Etienne for Clemson is one of their best guys, and he's lightning fast. If we can get that guy shut down, I feel like we got a really good chance at being competitive with those guys and should be able to win a national championship. Do I feel like there's a giant gap between Clemson and Alabama, Clemson and Georgia, Alabama? No. I feel like all three of these teams, if you played 3 or 4 games with each one, nobody's going to go undefeated, and there's going to be 2 or 3 losses in each one of those boxes. So it just kind of comes down to the way it pans out. Worst case scenario, just call him on the phone live. Yeah, I could do that. I hope we see Adam Anderson this year a lot. I don't know a whole lot about him, but we've got to see it. We will see Zamir, and along with Ojulari. I want to see Ojulari. I'm really excited about him. Kirby is underappreciated. ATN is actually my pick. Kirby Smart is, I don't think Kirby Smart is undervalued. I think a lot of Georgia fans, especially the diehard fans, the guys that are really invested in it, the ones that take the time to learn the players' names, learn the coaches' names, get involved with what's going on with the recruiting trail, following, the other people in the industry that look into reporting on University of Georgia, follow the Twitter account, all that other stuff. I think there's a huge fan base out there that really understands how important and how prominent Kirby Smart is. Now, you're always going to have your bandwagon fans. Going to have those guys that Georgia's doing great this year. We love Georgia. I'm a Georgia Bulldog. And the next year it's like, I'm an Alabama fan. It's like, what just happened to you, man? You was bleeding red and black last week, and now it's crimson. What's wrong with you? You're going to have those guys. And most of those guys kind of understand how good Kirby Smart is. Those fans have been wanting to pull for Georgia and just couldn't because of Mark Richt, man. I try to watch as much stuff as I can. There's a lot of content that comes out for Georgia. One of the reasons I do this show is I try to give people a way to interact live and give my opinion. It also helps me learn more about the team, because I feel like if I jump on here and don't know what I talk about, I'm going to get blasted out pretty quick, and rightfully so. I'm not saying I know everything. I certainly don't. I've got a lot to learn still, but I think it's important that the fan base out here is able to interact with people besides folks like just Paul Feinbaum. All right, guys. Thought Jim Donan was a good coach. I have no idea who that is, Jonathan. I'll be honest with you. Ride down with my dogs. That's why when we get a natty, it will be so special. Absolutely. For those of you who don't know, I lived out in the Midwest for more than a decade, and I was the only. There was one other guy who was a Georgia fan, and I didn't find him until I'd lived out there for like 8 years. Being a Georgia fan out there amongst all those Nebraska Cornhuskers was one of the things that really galvanized me into being a big Georgia fan. I was already a Georgia fan. I was already a pretty big Georgia fan. But being out there and constantly listening to other team, these other guys talk about how great their team was, and I was like, man, your team's really not that good. just watch SEC football and you'll see your team's really not that good. And I started watching more and more as far as the recruiting trail and the stuff, and it just really kind of spun up. Yeah, we'll see y'all in Atlanta. There's no doubt about that, Dwayne. And being out there, like I said, really galvanized me into being a Georgia fan. It really got heavy into it. Started getting heavy into it whenever Keith was on here. Whenever he attended University of Georgia, I really started paying attention to the team a lot closer. And then being out there, getting or not having the ability to go to a game, only being able to watch it on TV. I got to go to one game the entire time I was out there, and it was the first game that Missouri joined the SEC. Aaron Murray was a quarterback, and it was the whole old man football and stuff like this. I lived in Nebraska from 04 to 14. Does my wife make me sit in the car? No, I actually sit in the car for a number of reasons, but I'll get to that here in just a second. Moving back, I went to a Missouri game. My wife bought me tickets for Father's Day, and I held those tickets that entire time until Georgia played Missouri, and then I had to drive like 7 hours to go to that game, and it was the closest game that I was going to be at for the next probably 4 or 5 years. UGA 12-0, Bama 12-0, Ben Stadium will be a classic. I agree. Jim Dunham will be the head coach before UGA hired the diving coach. Oh, yeah. Sorry, dude. I thought you was talking about something else. I haven't been to a Georgia game since the 1980s. Well, that's the problem. You got to go to a game, man. That's why we haven't won a national championship. You are the lucky charm. Go to a game, we'll win a natty. Roll tears, roll, year of the dog. um, what was I saying up here? There was something I was gonna say. Oh, does my wife make me sit in the car? No, my wife does not make me sit in the car. I can sit in the car. The reason I like sitting in the car is because it's much easier for me to control the sound environment. I have 3 kids. I'm a family man. I'm the typical, 40-year-old guy with a real job ish, and a wife and 3 kids, and we got the SUV, and we got a cat, and I'm the typical college football fan. I fit every demographic. I check every box. So the reason I sit in the car is because I don't think you guys want to listen to my 1.5-year-old run around and holler and scream. I love the guy, but it's tough to do a video when he's getting into everything. I don't think you guys want to hear or see my son play Fallout or Fortnite. And my daughter, she's pretty sassy, so goodness knows whatever she's going to say. My wife is probably either cooking food or cleaning up something or yelling at a kid. So it's just easier to do it out here. I can turn on the air conditioner, I can turn on the heater, I do whatever I want to do, and it's nice and quiet, so I can interact with you guys better. Diehard Alabama fan, but the 1990s Nebraska team was top 3 in history of any school, raped and undefeated, or one-loss Spurrier coach Florida team, worst beatdown in an important game. Uncle Lou needs to sit in the back. Uncle Lou's actually an awesome guy. I know that guy is a high flying personality, but I like Lou. He's helped me a lot. Him and Volunteer Roadshow. Anytime I've reached out to those guys for tips or advice or information, they're always really forthcoming and giving of that information, and I really appreciate those guys. So yeah. We have to get Eric Gilbert. That kid is special. If you haven't seen his film, go watch him. We have to get him. You can go ahead and check that box. We've got him. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now. He loves UGA. He is a UGA fan. He doesn't want to talk to anybody else. He's not interested. He's basically married at this point. He has no intention whatsoever of changing away from University of Georgia. You can check that box. He's on board. Family is SEC football. I wish the season started next week. Yes and no. Then try to convince him Trump is a good man. I don't put politics on my channel because everybody's got their own opinions, and I leave politics alone for the sake of football. I always have, always will. I can garner enough trolls just by talking about their football team. I don't have to talk about their politics. Darnell Washington or Eric Gilbert? Eric Gilbert. Darnell Washington's good. Go watch tape on Eric Gilbert, and you will see a Bo Jackson-esque style. He is unbelievable. The guy is, what is Bruce saying? What are you talking about, Bruce? Yes, now let's get greedy and get Darnell Washington also. 2 5-star tight ends. I think we got a good shot at picking up those tight ends. I think we desperately need them, and I think we'll get them. So, I don't think anybody's really recruiting tight ends probably like we are right now. I will say that Clemson's doing a heck of a job. Clemson's doing a heck of a job recruiting right now, but I think we're going to catch up to them pretty soon. So, I knew I was going to run out of coffee, so I got brought my water out with me. One of the things I do want to do, though, is I want to see about, excuse me, I kind of got a little strangled there. Sorry. One of the things I'm looking into is getting another mic. The setup that I got right now, I really like this thing because it has a light that's attached to it, and it adds a pretty good bit of light. And it kind of fills in some of the dark spots. 55-gallon drum of Liquid Life. What? What are you telling? What are you guys? The Chicken Club is good from the Huddle House. Everything's good at the Huddle House, man. Everything's good at the Huddle House. There's a huddle house that we go to that's actually outside of town by the interstate, and there's almost no one ever in there. The place is always super clean. Service is always super fast, and the food's great. Patty melt. There we go. Now we talking. Patty melt with double order of hash brown, scatter smothered covered, and give me a waffle on the side and a Sprite. Yeah, we're going to catch Clemson. We've got so many 5-stars out there. By the way, guys, just so you know, you can jump on, I think, 24/7 Sports, and they actually have a list of the targets that schools are after. And you can look at whatever specific school you're at, and you can actually see who they're targeting. And then if you'll click on that player, you can actually see whether they're kind of hot or cold or what the crystal ball is leaning towards, and get some more data there if you really want to jump into it. I'm kind of a nerd, so I'll be sitting here on my phone looking at, stuff like that, and my wife goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm looking at football stuff." Yeah, 49 burger, fries, and drinks is awesome. It is. I like a good deal. All right, guys, we're running up on an hour. I really only meant to do about 40 minutes. Yeah, they got Evans coming to Georgia too. Scatter smothered covered chunk dice, pecan waffle, chicken melt doubled. I haven't tried that, Mark. I have not tried that. Keith, we got to get together and do lunch or dinner or hibachi or something soon. We miss you guys and have you guys come over and hang out, or we need to come over there and need to do something soon. For those of you who don't know, I'm in the process of trying to buy a house. I don't know exactly how my video stuff is going to work out in the future. Because I do my stuff in the car most of the time, I'll probably be able to make some more make videos from the car. But if you start seeing different environments, that's why we're looking at buying a house. So what else was I going to bring up? There was something else, I forget. Where do you live? You on the coast in Georgia? Jonathan, I live just south of Atlanta. So go Dogs. Got to roll, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. We really appreciate you guys. It really helps the channel. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. And as always, God bless. Go Dogs.